This further revised version of Seat's 4th generation Ibiza supermini offers small car buyers a smarter set of more eco-conscious high-tech talents. It'll need them if it's to distance itself from its Volkswagen and Skoda design stablemates and continue as a credible alternative in this tightly fought segment.
Enjoyneering. Now, it's one of those marketing words, of course, but it's also a rather apt description of what Spanish maker Seat sets out to create when it brings us a new car. Something beautifully engineered, but with a bit of extra Latin sparkle. Something like this, the Iberian brand's much improved 4th generation Ibiza supermini. Perhaps. Well, the beautifully engineered bit isn't difficult to believe. Seat's position within the Volkswagen group means that this car shares many of its mechanicals with its close compact cousins, Volkswagen's Polo and Skoda's Fabia. Both are solidly impressive superminis, but Latin sparkle? As a small car customer, you'd probably go elsewhere for that. Now, whether that would be your local Seat dealership is what we're here to decide. The Sociedad Espanola de Automoviles de Turismo, or Seat, as you better know it, is well used to injecting a little life into the mainstream market. Its 600 model, launched in 1957, is the fun little runabout credited with putting Spain on wheels, over 1 million being sold to bronzed Iberians in just 11 years. Only when Volkswagen took control of the brand in 1986, though, did its appeal start to spread to the rest of Europe, with the Ibiza supermini the sales spearhead, and this Mark IV model, launched in 2008, generally acknowledged as the company's most competitive proposition yet. A few years on, though, and with toughening small car competition, it was clear that a bit of a rethink might be needed to keep this car current. We got a refresh in 2012, and then a more far-reaching update announced in the autumn of 2015, the one that we're here to evaluate. This later package of changes brought an all-new 1-litre Eco-TSI petrol engine and revised, more compliant suspension. Seat reckons, though, that what buyers will really notice are the extra personalisation options, the smarter interior and the additional media connectivity. Will it all be enough, though, to keep this car current against more recent rivals? Let's find out. What is it about this car? It ought to drive just like a comparable Volkswagen Polo or Skoda Fabia. The underpinnings, after all, are very similar, yet somehow it doesn't. Perhaps the sportier styling and the more dynamic brand image that this Seat has lead you to push it that little bit harder, revealing unexpected handling talent that a Fabia or a Polo could also offer if only given the chance. Maybe, but somehow we doubt it. Seat has largely managed to maintain this eagerness with this improved 4th generation model, despite the adoption of softer springs and dampers that enable the car to do a better job than before when it comes to absorbing the imperfections of our road network's terrible tarmac. That's one key change with this revised model. The other lies with the provision for petrol buyers of the downsized 1-litre 3-cylinder power plant that we've already seen in other Volkswagen Group models. This time, though, it's the first time that this unit has been offered in all 3 of its main guises. Buyers of budget Ibiza models get this 1-litre engine in entry-level 75 PS, normally aspirated form, where it's willing enough but ultimately limited by a mere 95 Nm of torque, which means that 62 miles an hour takes 14.3 seconds en route to 107 miles an hour. It's much better if you can shake that piggy bank just a little more to stretch to this power plant in Eco-TSI turbocharged guise, where it not only offers extra performance but also much improved efficiency too. We think the sweet spot in the range is delivered by the 95 PS 1-litre Eco-TSI model. This makes 62 miles an hour in 10.4 seconds en route to 119 miles an hour, and it picks up smoothly from around 1500 RPM and manages to offer an endearing growl towards the top of the rev range, while at a cruise, maintaining decent standards of refinement. This engine also comes in 110 PS guys mated to DSG automatic transmission, in which form 62 miles an hour is 9.3 seconds away en route to 122 miles an hour. Both of the 1 litre Eco TSI power plants feel revier and more satisfying to use than the 90 and 110 PS 1.2 litre TSI petrol units they effectively replace. Although at the launch of this improved Ibiza lineup, Seat continued to offer buyers the option of these older engines. Look further up the petrol range and you'll find the cleverest engine in the lineup, the 1.4 litre Eco TSI unit. This one has 4 cylinders, but under light throttle loads, only 2 of them ever get used, thanks to smart ACT active cylinder technology. This allows this variant to deliver impressive near 60 miles per gallon combined cycle economy, but rapid performance too, 62 miles an hour occupying just 7.6 seconds en route to 137 miles an hour. If that's not fast enough, then you'll need the top SC Cooper hot hatch variant. Unlike the pre-facelift Ibiza Cupra model, which used a supercharged and a turbocharged 1.4 litre petrol engine, this improved version provides shopping rocket buyers with a more conventional 1.8 litre TSI turbo unit. This power plant delivers 2 advantages. First, it's compatible with a manual gearbox, which the old 1.4 litre unit wasn't. And second, it delivers more power, 192 PS, along with a pokey 320 newton meters of torque, 70 newton meters than the old model could manage. As a result, 62 miles an hour can now be reached by Cupra buyers in just 6.7 seconds en route to 146 miles per hour. Ibiza buyers in search of diesel power get offered a 1.4 litre TDI unit that most will select in its entry-level 75 PS form. This engine could do with a touch more refinement, but there's not much wrong with the performance it offers. In its base guise, 62 miles an hour takes around 13 seconds on the way to about 107 miles an hour. Figures you can improve slightly if you opt for the 90 PS version of this power plant that comes mated to DSG auto transmission in the ST Estate variant. In this particular case, we're trying the 1.4 litre TDI engine in its top 105 PS guise, where it's only available with sporty FR trim and makes 62 miles an hour in 9.9 seconds en route to 119 miles an hour. With the FR package, you get more than just a more dynamic look. This trim level also including firmer sports suspension and a clever XDS electronic differential lock, which will help you get the power down more quickly out of tight corners, dialing out understeer and firing you from bend to bend. Right across the Ibiza range, the surprise is, as we said at the beginning, just how much enjoyment is on offer from this bright, lively little car. Petrol variants turn into corners a little more responsibly than their more nose-heavy diesel counterparts, but all the derivatives handled with big car fluency. There's the option of a drive profile system that either sharpens or softens the setup of the car via sport or comfort modes. This Ibiza is pretty enjoyable to punt around town too, once you get used to the rather restricted rear view out, thanks to hefty rear pillars that'll make parking sensors or this car's rear parking camera a worthwhile investment. Overall then, what we have here is a car on which you don't need to spend a fortune to have fun. Whichever Ibiza body style you choose, the 3-door SC, this more conventional 5-door hatch, or the ST Estate, it won't at first glance appear to have changed very much over earlier versions of this Mark IV model. But then few changes were needed. Short overhangs, subtle body creases and smart angular headlamps still make this one of the smarter superminis in the segment. The original distinctive arrowhead shape was penned by stylist Luc Donkervolker. He's the same guy who did the Lamborghini Gallardo supercar, and it's matured nicely, changes being limited to subtle differences. If you've owned an original 4th generation Ibiza model before, then seeing this one will be a bit like meeting an old friend who's had the odd nip and tuck on the sly. In terms of being more specific, well, you really do have to know what to look for. Apart from what Seat hopes is a more stylish range of alloy wheels, the only really obvious exterior change with this updated model lies with the addition of these LED daytime running light strips within the headlight clusters, and you only get them if you avoid the least expensive trim levels. Otherwise, there wasn't much point in further changing this front end, given that it was updated as recently as 2012 with a narrower, sharper trapezoidal grille that aims to add a bit of visual width and purpose to the overall shape. And this sits above a sharply contoured bumper with angular creases that are intended to naturally draw the eye down the car's flanks. At the rear, the key change also relates to lighting. Now, where LED technology features at the front, these rear clusters now also feature it, creating a more distinctive nighttime signature. Otherwise, the look is as smart and clean as it was before, especially with the sporty looking bumper and the more potent looking twin tailpipes that you get with this FR version. View any Ibiza in profile and the main thing you'll notice will be something you'll probably either like or hate. These curious side slashes. One starts at the front wing and then falls to the middle of the rear door, while the other begins just behind the front door handle and then flows back towards the rear light cluster. It's a styling theme that looks great with the SC 3-door body shape, but it's more of an acquired taste when it's translated to 5-door models like this one. Another design feature these more practical Ibiza models have borrowed from the Coupe SC version is this relatively low and rakish roofline. You've got 22mm less roof height here than you have in, say, Skoda Fabia, and that makes all the difference when it comes to visually distancing this Seat from some of the more boxily boring rivals. You'd think that rear seat folk might have to pay for that, and for sure, if we had a 3-door SC, we'd be talking about severely restricted rear headroom. You won't be struggling quite as much in that regard if you go for a 5-door body style like this one. But the reality is that you'll still be getting a bit less headroom than is usual for cars from this class. Fortunately for Seat, typical Ibiza buyers are people with young families, so that has not so far proved to be much of a sales impediment. Up to 3 kids will be quite comfortable back here. For us, slightly more of an issue is this, the kind of rather over-high central transmission tunnel that you'd think you wouldn't need on a front-wheel drive supermini. It's one of the things that'll, well, make it very difficult indeed to transport 3 adults for any distance in this car. Though, if you do have to do that, it will at least help that knee room is reasonable by class standards, thanks to these recessed seat backs. Time to take a seat up front, the part of the car into which most of the design budget was poured when it came to this facelifted model's package of changes. Now, that was a wise choice on Seat's part. There was never very much wrong with the way that the outside of this Ibiza looked, but earlier versions always felt dull and cheap and plasticky once you got behind the wheel. This one is much nicer, thanks to many elements borrowed from its larger Leon family hatchback stablemate, including a smarter dash and upgraded upholstery. One of the most visible changes is the redesigned instrument cluster that you view through the now smarter 3-spoke multifunction steering wheel. Get comfortable in front of it, that's easy thanks to reach and rake adjustment and a height adjustable seat, and you view 2 clear dials with sporty looking white numbering. The main gauges are separated by a black and white digital information display that duplicates the carousel style graphics and much of the functionality of the new infotainment screen that dominates the centre of the dash. In its standard 5-inch form, this display is offered in either black and white or colour guise, depending on the trim level you choose. As standard or as an option, plusher Ibiza derivatives get this particular car's larger 6.5-inch Colour Media System Plus screen, which includes a navigation system with voice control and also comes with a proximity sensor, so it'll sense your finger coming towards it. Whatever screen setup you favour, Seat reckons that you'll want to use this display to duplicate the functionality of your smartphone handset and to view selected apps. That's possible if you get a variant like this one, equipped with what the brand calls its full link setup. That's there to work through the MirrorLink, the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay systems. Android users have the added advantage of being able to download two useful apps, the Seat Connect app for stationary use and the Seat Drive app when you're on the move. With these, you can do things like display personalized information from your Facebook account, get text-to-speak messaging that'll read out current Twitter or Facebook posts, view weather forecasts, and even activate functionality through a range of individual gestures. So the Ibiza at the wheel experience is more media savvy, and with equal trendiness, it's also now more personalisable to suit the current market mood. Special optional colour packs enable you to trim the upholstery, the air vent surrounds, the gear knob stitching and the steering wheel either in red, in a velvet colour or in a shade that Seat calls bismuth. Moving to practicalities, well, there is most of what you'd expect. The door pockets are pretty small, but you do get a decently sized 10.7 litre glove box, while further small compartments are provided lower down the fascia by your right knee and to the right of the pedal box. A small storage area at the bottom of the centre stack gives you USB, aux in and 12-volt socket attachments, and this sits ahead of two cup holders with a third provided behind the thankfully conventional handbrake. Finally, let's take a look at luggage space out back. I press in the large Seat logo that doubles as a boot release, and the rear hatch of this 5-door variant opens to reveal 292 litres of luggage space, marginally more than the 284 litre total offered by the sportier 3-door SC body style. True, that is nothing like as much room as you'd find in boxier superminis from this segment like Skoda's Fabia or Hyundai's i20, but it's pretty comparable to what you get from direct rivals like Ford's Fiesta, Vauxhall's Corsa and Peugeot's 208. If you do want more space, going for an Ibiza in ST Estate guise will increase your boot capacity to 430 litres. As for practicalities in the boot area, well, there is a bag hook, but no useful 12-volt socket or tie-down points to keep awkward items in place. You do get extra underfloor storage, but only if you're unwise enough to do without the optional space-saver spare wheel that we've got here. If you need more room, then of course you can, as usual, push forward the rear bench. It'll be split folding provided you've avoided entry-level trim, but it doesn't fall quite flat. Once retracted, up to 847 litres of space is revealed for both the 3 and 5-door hatch body styles, or up to 1,164 litres if you've gone for the ST Estate. That latter figure is 231 litres less than you get from a comparable but more boxy Skoda Fabia Estate, but it's still enough to allow an owner to carry 2 bicycles with the front wheels removed. The Ibiza is typically priced within the supermini segment, which means asking figures that range from around £10,000 to around £18,000, or a touch more if you opt for the top SC Cupra hot hatch version. Ibiza buyers certainly get more choice when it comes to body styles, this being the only supermini offering them as many as 3 options. And within the model lineup, there's a £450 premium to go from the 3-door SC body style to the 5-door body shape that we have here. And from there, you have the further option of finding another £700 to get the extra carriage capacity of the ST Estate. I'll give you a touch more detail on the pricing and the range structure before we go on. That £10,000 entry figure sounds reasonably tempting, doesn't it? Well, actually though, that baseline figure applies only to an SC 3-door version equipped in a stripped out E-designated level of spec, and that's not an especially popular choice. The range begins in earnest from just under £12,000 with the air-conditioned S trim that gives you the choice of all 3 body styles. So it's probably best to think of that as your Ibiza starting point. I'll go for this 5-door derivative, and there's a diesel option available at this level too, although you will need to be covering more than a few annual miles to justify this engine, given the premium of over £2,200 that the 1.4 litre TDI variant demands over the 1 litre 12-valve petrol version. For the key new power plant introduced with this revised lineup, the 1 litre Eco TSI petrol unit, you'll need to stretch to mid-range SE trim and a budget for around £14,000. Sporty looking FR models like the one we're trying here start from around £15,000 and include most of the more sophisticated engines in the range. On to the value proposition offered by Ibiza pricing in the supermini segment. The news that, as ever, this Seat sets out to be competitive without necessarily providing the cheapest choice in the sector. Obviously, the real bargain brand contenders in this class undercut it, cars like Dacia Sandero and the MG3. And so do some more mainstream models like the Kia Rio, the Suzuki Swift and the Citroën C3. These small cars, though, aren't as personalisable or as media savvy as this Spanish model. The Barcelona brand hopes that that will matter to likely buyers. Well, bear in mind when you're doing your comparisons that air conditioning is standard on nearly all Ibizas. That's a feature you usually have to get beyond baseline trim to have on most rivals, cars like its Volkswagen Group stablemates, Skoda's Fabia and Volkswagen's Polo. The Fabia is practical, slightly more affordable, and has a more modern platform than this Ibiza, but it's also a more conservative choice with a slightly less sophisticated range of engines. The Polo, as you would expect, trades a lot on its brand equity, and although some versions are very comparably priced against their identically engined Ibiza counterparts, the 1-litre petrol engines that many buyers will want are much pricier in a Polo. Check out those units and then compare like with like spec, and you could find yourself looking around £1,600 to £1,800 more to own the Volkswagen. So, your call. You'll also want to be briefed on the Ibiza's value proposition against the really strong sellers in the supermini segment. Now, it's true that Ford's Fiesta and Vauxhall's Corsa can undercut this Seat's pricing in entry-level petrol guises, but the variants in question tend to use old, inefficient engines. Ford and Vauxhall's diesel pricing is actually very comparable to that of Seat. And if you go for a Corsa or a Fiesta with a high-tech 3-cylinder petrol engine to match this Ibiza's 1-litre Eco TSI unit, then this Seat's proposition looks strong. The Ibiza 1-litre Eco TSI 95 PS variant that we think would be an ideal pick gives you much more performance and better efficiency figures than a directly comparable Corsa 1-litre I 90 PS direct injection turbo model, and costs very little more. And the same Eco TSI Seat could save you nearly £1,000 on a directly comparable but more feebly performing Fiesta 1-litre T EcoBoost 100 PS model that still isn't quite as cheap as this Spanish car to run. And that makes you think, doesn't it? And other supermini rivals. Well, you might save a fraction on, say, a comparable Hyundai i20 or a Renault Clio, but that's probably nothing that your Seat dealer couldn't match with a bit of negotiation. Peugeot's 208 is very similarly priced, but you'd have to decide whether you could get used to the unusual driving position and the clunky infotainment system. Finally, to own comparable versions of cars like Toyota's Yaris, Honda's Jazz and the Mazda 2, well, you'd be looking at having to find significantly more cash. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is this Seat that you really want, well, then you're going to need to know just how generous the Spanish brand has been when it comes to standard specification. So, let's see. All models get what today's supermini buyers would see as the basics. Front electric windows, tinted glass, remote central locking, a 12-volt power socket and a height adjustable driver's seat. And even the really basic E level of trim gives you the media system touch infotainment setup, complete with a 5-inch black and white screen, USB port, SD card slot and steering wheel mounted controls that allow you to operate the 4-speaker stereo system. As we said earlier though, you really need to be thinking in terms of the range beginning from the S trim level that includes all 3 body styles. Here, Seat throws in air conditioning with a dust and pollen filter, a trip computer, an alarm, a DAB radio and Bluetooth phone connectivity. Plus you get the deadlocks and the split folding rear seats that really shouldn't be missing from any modern supermini these days. Of course, you can go further if funds permit. SE trim adds the LED daytime running lights that distinguish this revised Ibiza from earlier Mark IV versions, plus front fog lamps, alloy wheels and a colour display for the infotainment media system touchscreen. And Vista trim adds cruise control and larger wheels. You have to stretch up to an Ibiza with Connect spec though to get as standard all the cutting edge media connectivity that Seat is making such a big noise about with this car. Namely the full link setup that allows you to duplicate the functionality of your smartphone handset onto the dashboard infotainment screen and use selected apps. Now, I'm going to give you a bit more detail on this as the full link media connectivity package is optional with most of the plusher Ibiza trim levels, and we think many potential buyers are going to want it. Now, the way full link works depends a little on the type of smartphone you use. Now, with an iPhone, it functions through the Apple CarPlay setup. Alternatively, with an Android phone, full link will work through the industry's proven MirrorLink and Android Auto systems, and with these is also compatible with the useful downloadable Seat Connect app. Now, Seat Connect is very clever indeed, allowing the dash screen of your Ibiza to display personalised information from your Facebook account and even allowing finger gesture functionality. Now, the Connect trim level also includes a Samsung A3 smartphone, if you want it, which comes preloaded with that Seat Connect app. Plus, at this level in the range, you will also get as standard the perfect way to display your full link functionality, namely Seat's desirable Media System Plus setup. This gives you a larger 6.5-inch high-resolution centre dash colour screen, complete with satellite navigation, 3D map display and voice recognition. As with full link, the Media System Plus setup will be a key extra for Ibiza buyers to consider if they're looking at variants further up the range. Beyond the Connect trim level that we've been talking about lie only more sportily orientated Ibiza models, like the FR variant that we're trying here. Ibiza FR models get a slightly more dynamic look thanks to smart 16-inch Stratos alloy wheels, twin exhaust pipes and bumpers exclusive to this trim level. Inside, the theme continues with sports seats and a flat-bottom steering wheel, plus there's auto headlamps and wipers and power folding mirrors. You get sports suspension too, the whole idea being to offer buyers an Ibiza replicating at least some of the look and feel of the top hot hatch Cupra version. If nothing but that potent 192 PS Cupra variant will do, then you'll get yourself a car with all the usual elements of shopping rocket dressing. The top performance derivative is only offered with the SC 3-door body style and comes complete with big 17-inch wheels, piercing bi-xenon headlamps, high gloss black door mirrors and a matte black rear diffuser. The Cupra driving experience is embellished by a drive profile system that allows you to tweak the steering and the suspension, plus an XDS electronic differential lock to help with traction through the corners. It'll be nice for potential Ibiza buyers to see the Cupra variant in the corner of the showroom, but the versions of this car that they're more likely to buy will probably be more like this one, reasonably well equipped while delivering a little dash of that Latin spirit I was talking about at the beginning. Now here, that has been provided by optional upgrades that have given this car dark tinted rear windows and what Seat calls a black pack that includes black trim for the door mirrors, for the front grille frame and even those big 17-inch Tegas alloy wheels. Opt for the SE or FR trim levels and you get the option to pay extra for that full link and Media System Plus infotainment functionality that I was talking about earlier. One of the advantages of doing that is that your Ibiza will then also be able to take an integrated navigation system, plus an upgraded 6-speaker Seat sound system if you want it. As for other options, well, this car has the extra cost Seat drive profile system that either sharpens or softens the setup of the car via comfort and sport modes. Other extras fitted here that you might want to look at include rear parking sensors and a rear parking camera, climate control, ambient lighting and a space-saver spare wheel in preference to the tyre repair kit that's all you get as standard. Don't get me started on that. On to personalisation. That's something no self-respecting supermini can be without these days. With this facelifted Ibiza, Seat has got with the programme here, offering buyers a series of what it calls colour packs. The black pack I've already mentioned, but there are also velvet, bismuth, titanium and white branded packs, along with a bespoke red edition pack for FR buyers. These options add bespoke colour right around the car, outside to the alloy wheels, the mirrors and the front grille surround, and inside to the upholstery, the air vent surrounds and the steering wheel. As for other optional features, well, on plusher models, you might want to look at a panoramic glass sunroof. And on FR and Cupra variants, we'd be tempted by the lovely Alcantara upholstery pack that adds that suede-style material to the facings of the sports seats. Now, if you're going for one of these derivatives and, well, you're an extrovert type, you might want to look at the rather in-your-face black and cup racer orange combination pack that gives you big 17-inch alloy wheels finished in a bright orange shade that's also replicated on the door mirrors and the lower front spoiler. Across the wider range, other aesthetic upgrades include high-gloss chrome door handles, illuminated side sills and a body-coloured tailgate spoiler. Practical options run to an anti-slip boot tray and roof bars that can take everything from luggage boxes to surfboards, and also a holder for your bike. Safety-wise, this Ibiza got a full house 5-star rating from Euro NCAP when they tested it back in 2011, but it probably wouldn't achieve that with today's tougher test, as unlike some rivals, it doesn't include curtain airbags, just twin front and side bags. Some compensation for that is provided with the inclusion on this revised model of a clever automatic post-collision braking system that automatically brakes the car down to 6 miles an hour after a collision. So if, say, someone hits you and understandably you go to pieces, your Ibiza will automatically sort itself out. More predictable standard safety kit runs to Isofix child seat fastenings, active anti-whiplash front head restraints and tyre pressure monitoring. It's good to see that Seat no longer makes buyers of entry-level Ibiza variants pay extra for ESC stability control. And there's an ABS braking system that flashes the brake lights to warn following motorists if you're making an emergency stop. As for going further, well, if you haven't stretched as far up the range as this FR model, then your dealer will offer you the optional driver pack that gives you cruise control, a hill hold control system to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and a tiredness control recognition system that monitors your driving reactions for drowsiness that it'll recognise by prompting you to stop for a restorative coffee. If you want, there's also the option of talking to your dealer about a lane keeping assist system that warns you if you're drifting out of your lane on the highway. And one of those city brake assistance systems that at urban speeds scans the road ahead as you drive for potential collision hazards and then warns you and, if necessary, helps you to brake to avoid them. It's a false economy to buy an inexpensive car only to find that it's cheap for a reason, namely because the economy and the emissions aren't competitive. Go for a cheaper supermini than this one and there is a real danger of falling into that trap. To give you one example of that, a budget brand supermini like the 1.2 litre petrol version of Dacia Sandero is nearly 50% thirstier than a much less feebly performing 1 litre Eco TSI petrol version of this rejuvenated Ibiza. And that is a massive difference. Now, if you prioritise low running costs in this class of car, it's to the clever 3-cylinder Eco TSI engine that we would direct you, providing as it does the super frugal running cost returns and the willing performance that you'd expect from a diesel, but without TDI power plant's high upfront cost premium and more expensive fuel prices. This state-of-the-art unit features efficient variable camshaft adjustment and particularly optimises thermal management, which significantly reduces emissions in the warm-up phase. As a result, it's very economic indeed, with the 95 PS 1 litre Eco TSI unit that we think will suit most buyers, delivering 67.3 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 98 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, to give you some perspective, that's a fraction better than you'd achieve from a directly comparable but much pricier Ford Focus 1 litre T EcoBoost 100 PS, and about 5% better than you get from other 3-cylinder petrol rivals like Vauxhall's Corsa in 1 litre I 90 PS direct injection turbo form, or Peugeot's 208 in 1.2 litre PureTech 82 guise. Go for an Ibiza with the pokier 110 PS version of that 1 litre Eco TSI engine that only comes mated to DSG automatic transmission, and the returns remain impressive, 64.2 miles per gallon and 102 grams per kilometre. If you're after a much cheaper entry-level Ibiza model, then you can also order this 1 litre 3-cylinder power plant in normally aspirated 75 PS form. But in this guise, despite the reduction in power, returns do fall substantially to 54.3 miles per gallon and 118 grams per kilometre of CO2. At the launch of this improved Mark IV Ibiza model, Sociedad also decided to continue offering its older 1.2 litre TSI petrol power plant. But look at this unit's stats and you can see that it's falling back in the efficiency race. The 90 PS version delivers 57.6 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 116 grams per kilometre of CO2, while for the 110 PS version, the figures are 54.3 miles per gallon and 119 grams per kilometre. If you're after pokier petrol power, then your dealer will wheel out a couple of tempting options. What about the 150 PS 1.4 litre Eco TSI motor offered to FR buyers? An engine that's clever enough to switch off 2 of its 4 cylinders when running gently, thanks to so-called ACT or active cylinder technology. As a result, this unit's able to get you to 62 miles an hour in just 7.6 seconds, but when driven more gently, is capable of 58.9 miles per gallon and 112 grams per kilometre of CO2. The final petrol variant is the potent 192 PS 1.8 litre TSI unit used in the top Cupra hot hatch variant. This combines 146 miles an hour performance with a 45.6 miles per gallon showing on the combined cycle and 145 grams per kilometre of CO2. Of course, if running costs are absolutely everything to you and you're determined not to be on first name terms with the staff at your local filling station, then in all probability you'll be wanting to order your Ibiza with a TDI diesel engine beneath the bonnet and get yourself the kind of car that I'm driving here. If your annual mileage and your buying budget can justify that choice, well, you'll certainly be getting yourself a very frugal supermini indeed. In green-minded ecomotive 75 PS form, the 1.4 litre TDI diesel variant is capable of 78.5 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 93 grams per kilometre of CO2. Get an ST Estate version that uses the same 1.4 litre TDI unit in 90 PS form, mated to a DSG Auto gearbox, and those figures are still competitive, rated at 74.3 miles per gallon and 99 grams per kilometre of CO2. Even the pokey 105 PS 1.4 TDI FR model that we're trying here manages 72.4 miles per gallon and 100 grams per kilometre. Sociedad has achieved their standard of efficiency by including all the usual efficiency tools at the disposal of modern automakers. Things like brake energy regeneration and a start-stop system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. Plus, there's a gear shift indicator on the dash that aims to enable ordinary owners to get, well, somewhere near the quoted returns on a regular day-to-day basis. Of more use in this regard, though, is the Eco Trainer system that comes included if you opt for an Ibiza fitted with the Media System Plus infotainment screen package. Here, your driving is rated for things like braking, throttle use and anticipation, and points awarded. It's like being back at school, isn't it? The results of your efforts are then visualised on a graphical Eco Points overview screen. The fuel consumption figures can be graphically demonstrated on a similar consumption overview screen. And you can also ask the Eco Trainer for efficiency tips, although personally I wouldn't, because most of them, to be frank, are rather blindingly obvious. Things like always drive in the highest possible gear and keep your speed constant. Ibiza owners who've opted for a variant with the full link media connectivity system and use an Android phone can download a Sociedad Connect app that includes a Challenger section, encouraging eco-friendly driving through a series of challenges. Likely Ibiza owners will of course be concerned about more than just fuel economy and taxation-orientated CO2 returns. They're going to want to keep their maintenance costs down, for example. Something of a challenge with this car, given that service intervals are reasonably frequent every 10,000 miles. The fixed price packages that your dealer will offer you should help with this, providing either 1 or 2 years of cover for as little as £15 a month. We should also mention that residual values are pretty reasonable by class standards. Expect 38 to 40% of your original purchase price back after the industry standard 3-year, 60,000 mile ownership period. What else? Well, there's Seat's usual 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty. That is unexceptional when rivals like Toyota and Hyundai offer 5 years of coverage standard and Kia offers up to 7 years. However, the Seat deal is extendable, so you might be able to negotiate on that. And it includes 2 years of Europe-wide roadside assistance. Finally, we'll tell you about insurance. For petrol people, the ratings start at Group 8E for the base 1 litre 75 PS unit. The 1.2 litre TSI 90 PS variant is rated at Group 13E or 14E if you get this engine in 110 PS form. Opt for the 1 litre Eco TSI petrol engine we've been recommending, and you're looking at Group 14E for the 95 PS version or Group 17E for the 110 PS unit. The 1.4 litre Eco TSI power plant is rated at Group 23E. And onto the TDI diesels, the 75 PS version is rated at Group 13E, while the Pokia 105 PS variant that we're trying here is rated at Group 17E. Ibiza is important to Spain, and this one certainly is to Seat. Over 5 million examples of this car have been sold since the original first-generation model's introduction back in 1984. Now, place all of these end-to-end and you'd have a line stretching from the model's Martorell Spanish production plant to Auckland in New Zealand. This appears, in short, to be an Iberian success story. Look beyond the headlines though, and it becomes clear that Seat still has many challenges when it comes to selling this car. Competition is very tough in the supermini segment, and this car's cause here isn't helped by the fact that this 4th generation design dates back a very long way to 2008. Perhaps that's one reason why it's so often outsold by the brand's larger, pricier Leon family hatchback. Fortunately, thanks to this package of carefully judged updates, this Ibiza doesn't really feel in any way outdated, thanks to a Leon-style interior and an optional package of media connectivity that's unbettered by any car in this sector. Now, if Seat can promote this properly, then it stands a chance of keeping this car somewhere near the top of the rather overstuffed shortlist that most browsing supermini buyers will be working through. An inherent product rightness certainly counts in this Ibiza's favour, born from a real attention to detail that's come through development of this model line over a quarter of a century. Aggressive pricing, sharp styling and a wide range of body styles all weigh in its favour too, as do the low running costs that you can achieve if you opt for the new Eco TSI and Eco Motive engines. There are, it's true, sharper handling rivals, and there are those that are cheaper or better equipped. But this Seat is now there or thereabouts in all the key areas. Plus, dress it correctly and it can look very sharp indeed. In summary, we're looking here at a car that, well, like its brand, has matured nicely. One mindful of the fact that modern-day Spaniards need to balance Latin spirit with sober sense. In this Ibiza, they've a small car that does exactly that.